involved in the stabbing incident. We had 30 people voting on the poll this morning,
Mm-hmm.
on the poll, and it was split straight down the line.
Mm-hmm.
15 said yes, and 15 said no.
Wow.
Not often we get polls that are split straight down the middle.
I'm not really
So,
surprised. It's really a conflicting issue, particularly if you have children yourself. I would understand a parent's response if they have a child themselves, because they would think, if that were my child, I wouldn't want that female student anywhere near my child.
so 15-15. So
Yeah.
if you didn't know what the playway mark today is, obviously 15.
I
Plain.
ain't about that.
Sometime today, 15 plain.
Good morning, Officer Sharbodie. Is it still Officer Sharbodie?
Derrick, your camera is off and you're on mute. Right, there you go. You unmute. Right, there's the camera.
Morning.
Boy, look at that face. Look at that face. Thank you so much for
Morning.
joining us, Derrick. Of course, I got Paul
Morning.
Richards that you see there. Richard Ragoobarsingh. He is not, yeah, he's got a face for radio.
You say you're lucky you're a police officer, so you could wear a gold chain and thing. We can't do that.
Honorable Senator.
We can't wear a gold chain like that, you know. But go on.
Well, listen to me. I am, by my virtue of my track record, I think it's sometimes helpful and sometimes it's not. So I am between a strong place and a rock, so that it comes with a price. All is well.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you.
Pleasant good morning to all you, Richard, Senator Richard, and my brother Khan.
Yes, my
Pleasant
friend.
good morning.
Morning.
Well, lots to discuss
Morning,
this morning.
officer.
Let me Steve is not calling for this lady at all these days, but I
Recording
remember
in
myself.
progress.
Right. There's Dorothy.
Oh, sorry.
She's a robot who's recording our shows for us.
Dorothy
Yes,
is
good.
part of this show.
Good morning, Officer Sharbodie. So are you still attached to the police youth arm?
Yes, I'm still the manager and founder of the St. James Police Youth Club, attached to Western Division Community Policing, and I'm presently on some leave. Yes.
You know, now don't I mean you have one fancy shades too.
Yes, but you wouldn't believe I've been having problems in terms of 2020. So God has blessed me.
2020 is go when you're 35. Don't even hope for that. When you hit 35, 2020, they start to dissipate. Anyway, you worked so many years, Officer Sharbodie, Derrick, with young people, with the youth group, with across the country, helping youth who find themselves in trouble, helping youth who want to do good things, who were never in trouble. And we're finding that we're seeing a lot of videos of fights of school children and fights of young people on social media. From the perspective of someone who's managed the youth group and continues to be involved in the lives of so many young people, what do you think is happening?
Well, there are a lot of factors that would have contributed to why young people are heading in a particular direction. And the first factor that we need to accept is that society has unfortunately not been instrumental in impacting on our nation's youth in a positive way. There are other factors that has now taken the role of mother and fatherhood. It has crept into the home, and we have allowed that to happen, being idle, being complacent, being looking for the mighty dollar. And our young people are allowed to navigate and find their own way. And as a result of that, young people are crying out. The expression of smoking weed, the violence that we see is all an expression of an emptiness. Something is missing, a void. It is a cry out for, I'm not having a relationship with my dad. I don't have a proper communication at home. All those are the sum total of what we are seeing today. How are we responding? We have responded tardy. We have responded in a negative way, and we have not been connecting with the youth. As a result of that, you'll continue to find young people forming themselves into all kind of dysfunctional groups, not because that they are violent, but because they are making a statement to say that, listen, this is my home, this is the environment I'm growing up in, this is the type of unfortunate culture I've been open to, and the society is now paying a price. We need to accept the fact that our children is the nation's children. While they may be attached to biological parents, the children belongs to us. And we must all play a fundamental role in nurturing, impacting, and also making a fundamental change, being a part of that, what you call, solution, to ensure that our children understand that we love them, we care for them, we concern about their well-being, and the most vulnerable. You would know, Senator Richard, that any nation that cannot take care of its children, its women, its most vulnerable, and even those who are especially able cannot consider itself a nation. And I think we have lost points in that regard. We have been busy pointing fingers, justifying who is wrong. We have had a lot of symposium, a lot of seminars, and we are yet to get it right. Because very little respect is paid for those who are on the ground doing excellent work and not supporting it, not expanding it, not saluting the good work that is being done. And hence the reason we are paying the price today, unfortunately.
Your organization has been involved in intervention, one, preemptively, by talking to youth before they get into trouble, but also by providing rehabilitation and counseling services to youth who get into trouble. Do you agree with the move by the Education Ministry to expel the female student?
My 30 years experience will allow me to say immediately no to that decision. And for one reason, that expulsion means that we no longer have use for you. You are no longer of value. The term expulsion gives a negative connotation that there is no future. If that child was placed on ongoing suspension with a view to assist and wait until the court have its findings so that we will be able to come up with that 15-year-old being a model project so that other children and girls who are showing violent tendencies will be able to assist them, I think it would have been much more rewarding, much more intelligent, much more prudent, and more common sense approach. It is not wise to expel so immediately. I think there was still enough room. Where did she get the knife from? Who are the players? What kind of environment this child grew up in? What is the relationship with the mother and father? What is the relationship at school? What is the child in terms of subjects? There's so many different questions are still outstanding that to expel now, I think it was a wrong move in my humble and respectful estimation.
But I think the expulsion or the removal of the student from the school now was responsible, because whatever antecedents they were to that student acting out in that way, you have to protect other students. One student was seriously injured. But I agree, which I said earlier on, with the move to rehabilitate or some attempt at rehabilitation as opposed to permanent expulsion. And the ministry said expelled. They didn't say expelled pending investigation outcome. They didn't say expelled until rehabilitated or counseled. It just said expelled. So my takeaway from that, it may be permanent. Do you think, we asked this question earlier on this week, do you think young people are more violent now, or is it that we're seeing more on social media being distributed?
No, definitely the young people now are more violent. They are more angry. They are more pent up. Their anger has been suppressed. And unfortunately, this blood, this vicious attack to see blood and to make sure at the end of the day that, they say, look at the videos, it is absolutely telling that some of these fights are sometimes staged, but in my estimation, young people are much more violent. Gone with the days when we would have been talking about two young men pulling a knife and we would have found it repulsive. But we have girls now, 15-year-old, choosing and picking their spot when police are not on patrol strategically and being engaged in a fight. It is a damning situation. It doesn't speak well for our society. and our country should feel shame that we have not been helpful in terms of our young girls and raising them and have impacted on them in a positive way.
How do you think the pandemic has affected their behaviors we're seeing now? Is it because some are suggesting, well, it's intensified right now because they were locked up, under lockdown for 2 years, and now they're out. There should have been some sort of debriefing for the first month or so of school to ensure that whatever happened during the pandemic, because it had a psychological effect on them, and we probably didn't pay enough attention to what may have happened during that period before understanding that, well, it may manifest in antisocial ways when they come back out.
Yes, I certainly agree to some extent, not to any large portion, because I've had the benefit of some of the youth club members under my charge. Parents will call me and saying, "Officer, my son is showing a lot of anger problems. Could he just come down at the center for an hour or two, please? Just to vent, just to play a little pool, just to relax." And I will allow them in small portions. So to some degree, I've seen that at youth club center. So you could imagine on a larger scale, I think what this school should have immediately introduced is putting some type of recreational activity, some type of orientation, and should have got straight into the maths, English, and social studies. Children were now settling in, they were now moving, as you rightly say, from 2 years, being shut down, isolated, being in front of a laptop. And you could imagine what was going on with the device. There's a lot of tracks taking place, who going to meet who as school open. So the device was also, if you check the cyber unit or you ask parents to just for a little while observe the children's phone, you will see that a discussion that is taking place. And some, unfortunately, is not healthy because parents are no longer policing their children, and that device has taken over as the new parent. And unfortunately, we are now suffering the price today.
Well, let's look at the parenting side and what's happening there, what's not happening there.
Well, forgive me, I am not a prophet of doom, and I do not, want to practice trying to give the impression that all is lost. But there are more delinquent parents than children. I know parents who step up to the plate. I know some strong single parent mothers who make every effort to get a child involved in constructive activities, make sure and work with them. There are some homes that are instructive, maybe nuclear, but the mother is still the one who runs the home. The father does absolutely nothing. He's not functioning. So that you have to look at the relationship and what is going on at the home level. Home are the pillar of society, and whatever home produce, society would have. And if home is producing children that are violent, there's a term being used, Senator Richard, that people who hurt others. I agree to some extent, but then we must give young people a platform to vent and to ensure that those who are hurting channel their hurt in a constructive way. Let them talk it out. If you want to use sports, if you want to use so many different unfortunate and innovative avenues, allow young people to vent. And that's why we have established our Men as Mentors program, our meal support group. And equally important, we need to see that our girls too need to get a platform where they can talk and chat and share without anybody shutting them down and saying, "What you're talking is nonsense. I hear you. I understand what you're saying. I'm hearing you. You're hurting. I know we can get through this." Give young people a platform where they can speak and allow them to share some of their frustrations and all the different unfortunate hurt and pressures that they have been suppressed during the 2 years and more. Young people are hurting, and we are seeing it play out in many different ways. Some children are not functional students. They do not belong to secondary school. They're in Form 3. I know that you did a lot of work in that regard. Form 2 can read, write, don't know how to spell the school name, and yet still they're in school every evening. That is an indictment on the school system, that you could have a 14-year-old in Form 3 and cannot read and write. So we need to look at our school system. We need to revamp the SEA. The SEA is the elephant in the room. You take thousands of children and put them in one on one day in a large space and then determine their well-being, that could never be a functional or a excellent system. I believe in the ongoing assessment that a child must be assessed from as early as third standard. It happens in St. Mary's, it happens in Clarity, that children assess and you monitor their progress. Why we don't have that same system at the primary school level? So we need to look at our education system that is producing and telling children that they fail. F is on the test paper. Why would you put F on a child test paper? Okay, put fantastic, put that you have a future, put, that I'm seeing progress. Why would you tell children that they are failures? So we need to look at the sum total of so many different factors that will contribute to our children's psyche and why they're behaving and the reason for them behaving. And it's not just one factor alone, in my estimation.
I'm hearing you, officer, and I'm just thinking, is it that it almost seems in terms of the conversation that it's the majority of the children that are like this? And I don't know that that's true. I don't know that the data indicates that, because I think a lot of children do follow the rules, do progress through the system for all of its inefficiencies and problems, and do become model citizens within the format of the social structure that is Trinidad and Tobago. And what we see are incidents of like school fighting and stuff like that. You see younger criminals now robbing people, etc. You see that coming out. But that's not reflective on the majority of the young citizens in this country. It's reflective of some.
Right, and I support that statement 100%. But we need to look at those who are struggling, those who are having problems with the school system, those who are angry, because those are the ones who would shut down the school system. Those are the ones who have police doing extra patrol. Those are the ones who have principals and them going back and revisiting the syllabus, because there is a small portion of the young people that it seems that they have been forgotten, that they lost. Nobody cares for them, nobody concerned. We are concerned about the majority. And I want to salute the majority of young people who are law-abiding, respectful, and doing an excellent job. That doesn't mean that we must forget the few that are showing that the school system, and by extension, the home environment that they're in, is toxic. They are unloved, they are uncared for, and they are crying out for help. I need to reach out to those children too, whether it's 10, 15, 20, 35, we need to let them know that they are the sum total of the nation's youth, and they should not be classified as at risk, but they must be seen as young people, probably, going at a slower pace, probably need more assistance. I need to reach out to these young people. We need to let them know that while the majority of young people are doing well, we also recognize that they need relevant help and extend that extra hand to those who are probably going at a slower pace, and by extension, who are making a statement every day to us that we need the necessary support and assistance through the police club, through the media. The media has not been very kind to some of the young people. I look at papers every day. To be negative is to be seen. The only time you see sometimes young people on the front page is when they do, it's look at the incident of the 2 females and so many other offenses that young people commit. They make front page. So we are telling young people to be negative is to be seen. Young people are doing excellent projects, excellent programs. How often do you see that? So there's not a balance in terms of reporting about the good work. There are good work going on at Williamsville. But guess what? Today, Williamsville Secondary School has taken the limelight for almost 1 week because of a 15-year-old female that stabbed an ex-15-year-old. Does that mean that all of Williamsville Secondary School is bad? No, there are good children there, decent children doing excellent work.
But to respond to Richard's point also is that, yes, the majority of students I presume over 90% are doing well and productive. Just like most of the society, the criminals form a minority, but it is those students who are being allowed to fall through the cracks, because they're not falling through the cracks just so. Who the system is not providing for in terms of intervention are the ones who have a higher possibility of ending up on the criminal side of the spectrum. And that is why they need a lot of attention. I'm not saying the media attention they're getting should supersede the good works that the good students are doing, but that is where the attention needs to be placed in any society. The most vulnerable, those are who are falling through the cracks, or who are being allowed to fall through the cracks, who are prey for gangs.
That's right.
Who will find themselves continuously in trouble because society is not providing for the gaps where they are not being remediated. So I think that is where the issue is.
That's right. And we need to look at our society closer. Is it really a good day this morning to have a 15-year-old being charged? Is it a good day to have 23% of serious crimes committed among our youth, where young men are being charged for possession of firearms, wounding with intent, robbery, murder? Is it a good day? Is it a good day that we have a report recently where children who come from homes, instead of being safe in those homes, have been abused? Is it a good day? Children need to really revisit what we are doing with our youths. On one hand, we are nurturing violence, procuring it, developing it, and then punishing it afterwards. So that's those, seemed to be, a whole case of being a cycle of violence, and then setting young people up and send them out into the world with violent tendencies. I think that we need to really get a grip, and we need to, as this forum would do, educate and inform people and let them know that they must be part of the solutions.
You made a profound statement there, and it keeps ringing in my head. To be negative is to be seen. Because not enough emphasis is placed. And we have seen the media, to be fair, place some emphasis on students who do well, but you don't see the stories of the recovery of somebody who fell and got up. Who fell, ran afoul of the rules and regulations and law in some instances, and was able to correct their lives.
Yes. And I say, let's do a documentary on this 15-year-old. Let's follow. Let us see, okay, we have all captured the essence of what this child did. It was horrendous. It was beyond, she should be punished. No society must be able to reward bad behavior. But let's walk it through. Let's look at the court system. Let's see what kind of support group you have. And let us see that society came together and make this child a model project so that other children to follow will be able to say, hey, remember that 15-year-old that stabbed the child many years ago? This child is now working in Republic Bank. She has her own business. She's doing A, B, and C. Society came together and we ensure that the child received the necessary help instead of busy pointing fingers. Because when you point fingers at one, they're 3 pointing back at us. That which we run from, that which we run into plus ourselves. We must tell our children, Senator Richards, that good education makes you shine, but good discipline makes you glitter. You must tell them that pressure makes you precious. When mommy fail, daddy fail, I would not be a fail in life. You must be able to let young people know that there's a spark, that God has given them a purpose. We have a microwave in our house that has a purpose. We have a stove in our house. We know its purpose. Why are we not spending time telling our young people that they are valued? God didn't brought them to this world to be no gangster and to have no gun and to be marking time watching. There's a greater purpose for you. And we need to reach out to them and let them know that there's a sense of value, there's a sense of what you may come under some very unfortunate circumstances, but you are rich, you have arrived, and we are here to help as a society, as a nation, collectively ensuring that our children become good citizens.
Officer Sharbodie, are you willing to take some calls from our listeners?
Sure.
So the phones are, what are the, you've been doing this for a while. What are the major differences in what young people are telling you that are affecting them 15, 20 years ago to what you're hearing today? Or is there any difference at all?
No, not much. They're hurting because they don't have a relationship with their father. They're hurting because they feel they've been set up. They're hurting because the home is not providing the basic fundamental needs. There's no love at home anymore. Nobody speaks to each other. You're lucky to get a text to come downstairs to eat something. Nobody sits at the table and eat, and there's nobody embracing you and saying, how was your day? How was school this evening? Parents are only are so busy trying to pay bills and trying to, ensure that the home is run, that the fundamental issue of love and attention and care, that is not being missed. So, okay, they'll find a way in TikTok, they'll find a way on the phone, they'll find a way onto the social media, and they are lost. So it is just that now that this social media has now been playing a more fundamental role, if I don't put it that way. But it's the same thing. Young people are crying out for help, and they're crying out for it in a very, what you call the usual way.
All right.
The numbers are.
Yeah, gentlemen, we have a call already, so let's grab this toll-free call. Good morning. Where are you calling us from? Ooh, not clear at all. Yeah, caller, we really.
Could you call back? You are.
Hit the redial.
We can't understand what you're saying at all.
Yeah, you sound very muffled.
Yeah.
If you're on speakerphone, you need to come off.
That's a very cheerful voice, Richard, from Arima.
Mm-hmm. Very.
Well, earlier on, you said Arimians have cheerful voices. Officer Sharbodie, how important do you think we've maximized the positive impact of youth clubs like the ones that you are involved in the country? Because long ago we had Scouts, Boy Scouts and Girl Guides, we had church groups, we had all these different areas where young people could go and let off their energy in positive manners, and they could talk to people informally, and there was a mentor there who could guide you if you have problems at home. I mean, do you think we're doing that, or is that falling by the wayside?
We are doing to the extent, but these programs have been starved for funding. And most of these programs sometimes have to be shelved or have to be paused or probably placed on a smaller scale. So we need to fund them. We need to make sure it's maximized. We need to make sure it's expanded, make sure it is more sexy, it's more attractive as we go into 2022. See Scouts and Girl Guides, and that need to start very early into the early childhood. We shouldn't wait until a child is charged and placed before the court then to recommend them. What are we saying about police clubs if we are recommending children who are before the court? Intervention is important, yes, but we need to be a little more proactive. In 2001, Senator Richards and Khan, that I established the first suspension center. It was people asking, what is this all about? It was simply to ensure that when children are on suspension, they occupy the time constructively at the center. And the principal were very much embracing this. Is an excellent initiative. So I had children on suspension in Western Division coming down to my center. And guess what? It did justice. We were able to find out some of the unfortunate challenges of why they should not be in school anymore. And we recommended the servals, the YTEP. We recommended many of the vocational schools, because some children may go at a slower pace, but it doesn't mean that they're dumb, they're stupid, they're duncy. It simply means that they're going at a slower pace, and therefore the school, even the secondary schools, must be able to accommodate those who go at a slower pace. Why must I learn maths, English, social studies, comprehension, general science, all that in Form 1, and I could hardly read and write? Don't you think it is much wiser that I work with 2 subjects now, which is compulsory?
All right. Derrick, we do have a call online. Good morning, caller.
Hey, morning, Wendell.
Morning.
Mr. Sharbodie, morning, sir.
Morning, Elder.
Right, I'm listening to the discussion here, and I want to say child rearing and parenting is a multifaceted situation, but nobody does get right. It takes a lot of patience and time to get right sometimes. But first thing I want to say about the young lady, it has something called second chance and third chance. Sharbodie, agree?
Yes.
That was second chance and third chance. We don't get that in our life. I mean, we all wasn't perfect children, but we had second chance and third chance, and we come out to be something good. Now, I have seen children who come from very grounded family take a different course, somebody. I have seen it. And sometimes people throw the blame at the home and the parents, but I come to recognize a lot of things that a lot of children start to follow the peers and the company when they join school. You hear that?
Yes, that's right.
Some of them led astray. Right? The issue now is how to bring them back, because I listen to politicians say the state have plenty machinery to bring back children. Look, for instance, I have a friend of 4 boy children, and we was having some discussions about it. And I introduced that lady to your club.
Yes.
You know what she said?
Mm-hmm.
She had no trust in the police.
Thank you.
I said, they don't trust the police now. The police might have to shoot your child.
Yeah, unfortunate.
So in the end of the day, it have room, it have help, it have counseling, it have church, it have Monday, it have mosque, it have place where children could go and get remedy. But do they want to go there, or they follow the old course? That's all I have to say for the hour.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Patrick. All right. So 222-TALK and 612-TALK, and toll-free North Americans 866-525-1099.
Police are young people attracted to police youth clubs, and in the same way, do you have to make a greater effort to encourage them? Because when you have some negative things about police out there now, and we've had some issues with the TT Police Service. You all have gone through so many iterations of challenges, and in some areas, actually across the board, people just have a kind of sometimes knee-jerk negative reaction to officers because of the way they interface.
I think in spite of all the unfortunate setbacks faced by the police service, and I know that they have an uphill battle in terms of trying to win back the public, we have done fairly well. 100 police youth clubs, we have done very, very well. Young people, when they come, probably, yes, they may have the skepticism about police, but the way we deliver our service, the way we communicate with them, they see us as a police officer, as a friend, a confidant, a mentor.
100 police youth clubs, you say?
Yes, we have over 100 police.
So if a parent is having challenges with their child, and they really are at their wits' end in terms of trying to manage his child's behavior, is it that they can come to the police youth club and say, well, help me?
Yes, I want to redefine that. Sometimes it's the parents who need more help than the children, because when you bring the children to the club and you realize, hey, this child is a greater, there's something more going on. It is sometimes the parents need the help. But yes, they can come to the police club, not because the child is having issues, but the child is talented, they have potential, they're gifted. And we prefer to take that kind of approach. And we'll be able to assist them in whether it's drama, poetry. There's so many different vehicles, sports we could use that young people can find their way. Counseling and informal counseling is one of the greatest counseling, where you can play table tennis with a child and learn so much from them. Putting children in a room and sit down on a table and chair. These children are the greatest psychologists. They tell you what you want to hear, and they make you study. Mm-hmm. But you have to get them in their zone. You have to get them in an environment where they can trust you. And I think that the police youth clubs and other groups, MyLAT has done I don't know why it is they haven't decentralized MyLAT yet. What's going on with El Dorado Girls Camp? Why are we taking so long to open a camp for females? Are we waiting? Do we have a boot camp? Well, there are so many different things that we need to look at to save our children, because they are doing national service,
I want you to talk. I keep talking about MyLAT and the fact that after the call that those programs are so progressive. But we take the call first.
Good morning.
Good morning. Jeremy here. I am saying that I love this program. When I wasn't born here as a PTA, the community police from Maloney started a program in the school where they, on an afternoon, where the parents would send their children, and they create an environment to communicate, to talk, because a lot of time we wait till the children do something wrong and just blame them, just label them. And the intervention, you see what Sharbodie said before with the schooling, that is where the problem lies. You can't expect a child who is frustrated or catching their tail with math and English to do 8 subjects. And when they fail at it, you call them dunce, you label them. They would get in trouble. We have to create the avenues, and maybe I am being honest, these police youth groups supposed to go into the schools now. And some primary school level, don't wait for secondary school. Start an intervention at the standard 4 and 5, where they have weekend programs for the little ones, so that it wouldn't seem like it's when I do something wrong, I go there. But it is part of the system, like the boys' youth clubs, the football clubs. Get the young people involved, get to know them, get them into music. There was a teacher, Mr. Wendell Soul, Mr. Clement, who said one thing: give a child an instrument and he wouldn't pick up a gun. And it worked so well in Borneo. But again, funding, support is a very difficult thing. But I am saying give a child a tool, whether it be a crayon, paintbrush, something. And that child would find another avenue for their anger, for their resentment. And as Sharbodie said, we can then get to the parents.
Thanks. There's a gentleman who called earlier on who disagreed with the approach that I espoused. I'd really like him to call back because I really want to hear his perspective and why he doesn't think, why he agrees with the student being expelled and I guess permanently. And it'll be interesting to hear that side of the story.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Well, I agree with all of the various programs. I mean, I might vary them a bit. But in the scenario that we are dealing with throughout certain parts, I think a child has a right to protect himself, you know. I try to protect my home and my family and so on, my property, otherwise. And if a child has been beaten or threatened or something, they have every right to take evasive action.
Does that evasive action involve walking with a knife and stabbing somebody?
As I understand it from the story that came out, the young lady did not attack anybody until they swarmed on her. And if you swarm on me after having threatened me, I'm going to defend myself.
So you think the response is valid, walking with a knife to defend yourself as a 15-year-old?
It includes anything you can get your hands on, even if you have to.
What?
Well, I disagree with that vehemently.
Well, I'm giving my opinion, of course. We have seen
clearly.
We have seen other videos of what has happened to people who are unable, school children who are unable to defend themselves. This young lady came out alive. The victim of the attack came out alive. And the perpetrator came out injured. If I have to give good and bad to that,
So you think every student who is being bullied or threatened should walk with a knife to defend themselves? That's what you're saying?
I feel you have to take it on a case by case, and we shouldn't have to get to the stage of people having to even defend themselves. So that's why I support the various programs. But when you have a situation of an individual being attacked and threatened and then attacked again, and they defend themselves under those...
So you have no problem with any student who is being threatened or bullied, walking with a knife and defending themselves by stabbing their aggressors? You have no problem with that?
I speak very clearly. I'm stating my position. Do not try to add or take away from what I'm saying.
I ain't adding, I didn't get clarification.
They're not taking away.
I'm just trying to make sure that I understand you clearly.
I can restate it.
Please do.
There's always a danger in answering loaded questions. Let me say it again. I only have protection in my home and in my environment and in my various interests because they are threats. And if I have to use it, I will. And I give that right to everybody. We do not have the mace and the pepper spray and so on in action here. So what do? It's like when the police do not have their whatever they call it, the thing that shoots off the electricity, right? You have to use their guns. You have to use what is available to you to save your life and limb. And I think the victim of the attack was doing that. And because she had been beaten and she had been threatened and the thing came to fruit, it happened again. What would have happened to her if that was my child? You always ask yourself, if I was the person under attack, what would happen to me and how am I going to prevent that in the future? I think people who attack people, by and large, they get what they deserve. You cannot go about attacking people and then say, well, we cannot have people returning fire. You cannot do that. We give more rights to the perpetrators than the victims.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comment on that contribution, Officer Sharbodie?
Well, being in business for 30 years, I am not surprised about that comment at all. I have parents who will justify vigilante justice and will even endorse a child going to school and putting other children at risk with a knife. That is madness. You need to create a safe environment for a child. You need to ensure that all checks and stops are made. The child must be able to go to the principal, go to the guidance officer, say I'm being bullied, go to the parent. The parent must be civilized enough to go to the school, have an audience with the principal and teacher, say my child has been reported A, B, and C. There's a way that we conduct ourselves. And
But is it that those systems are failing?
By and large, yes. The teacher's hands are full. You go to a principal, the principal can't even study syllabus because they are busy dealing with ammunition, this child disrupting a class. You have to really go into the school environment to see, sometimes the stresses of teachers and principals are asking for help. They need more assistance. They need more some schools need more help than others, of course. And therefore, we need to reach out to these schools and provide necessary help. And don't wait until this unfortunate situation where a child has to walk with a knife.
I think you all need to congratulate me. I think you all need to congratulate me this morning.
Congratulations there, Paul.
I stay real calm under that notitionist.
All right.
So
Officer Sharbodie, just do me one favor. Please. I want you to hold on for me for a little bit. I'm going to go to my news update, but all my lines are just ringing. So we want to take some calls from our listeners, just for about 10 minutes. But let me just get into my news update first. Be right back. It's all courtesy Champ Audit Services.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
Good morning. Here's what's making your news headlines to this hour. The Ministry of Education has taken the decision to expel the female student of Williamsville Secondary School who stabbed her schoolmate outside of the school earlier this week. The ministry says this decision was taken based on the heinous nature of the action, perpetrated even as the student was actively receiving the support of the Student Support Services Division at school. The ministry said it has referred the family to the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services for intervention. Meanwhile, Derrick Sharbodie, the manager of the St. James Police Youth Club, says he does not agree with the ministry's decision to expel the student. He told Power 102 Digital's Power Breakfast show that it may have been more rewarding, prudent, and intelligent to place the student on suspension until the matter was fully investigated and the proper assistance sought for the suspect. He said in his experience, rehabilitation and counseling would have gone a further way in having a positive impact on the suspect and turning her and transforming her into a success story. Parents are being urged to get their children vaccinated before another strain of the COVID virus emerges. Health Minister Terence Deyalsingh says that the Pfizer vaccines in TNT for 5 to 11-year-olds expire in October. He warns that a reduction in vaccine manufacturing may make it difficult to secure more of these vaccines in the event of a newer or deadlier strain of the virus. Staying with news of viruses, Bahamas is on alert as it investigates what may be the region's first case of monkeypox. Health authorities are investigating a possible case of the virus after a foreigner began showing symptoms linked to monkeypox. Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Michael Darville said the suspected case had been in the country for a few days before showing symptoms. Media reports say the foreigner is believed to be a man in his mid-40s who arrived on a British Airways flight. However, it is not clear when he arrived in the country. And the U.S. House of Representatives has voted through a series of measures regulating the sale of guns but which are destined to fail in the Senate. The new measures would bar sales of semi-automatic weapons to people under the age of 21 and ban large-capacity gun magazines. But Republican opposition in the Senate means the bill has little chance of entering law, despite a renewed focus on gun control in the wake of a series of mass shootings in the U.S. Hours before the vote, survivors of the Uvalde school shooting gave emotional testimony to lawmakers, which reduced some to tears. The primary school shooting in the Texan city claimed the lives of 21 people, including 19 children. Well, that's what's making your news headlines to this hour. Listen out for major news that comes your way at 12 noon.
Do you need to get work done on your vehicle? Look no further than the Auto Champions, Champlain Auto Services. From vehicle inspection to shutdown service, they do it all. Champlain Auto Services, great mechanics and technicians, exceptional customer service with accessories galore. Champlain Auto Services is your one-stop shop. They are your Auto Champions. You name it, they can fix it. Champlain Auto Services, Eastern Main Road, opposite Carib. Call 662-6545 and like us on Facebook. Champlain Auto Services. We do it all.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
All right, so we're back. It is 4 minutes after the hour of 8 o'clock. And of course, we'll continue. We'll take some of your calls at 222-TALK, 612-TALK, and North Americans, 866-525-1099. All right, as we have the Officer Derrick Sharbodie online. And before we get into him and take your calls, Furniture Plus Festival, the savings is here. Save hundreds on City and therapeutic mattresses. Prices start from just $999. Available with cash and higher purchase plans. Check press and social media for details. All right, it's all happening at Furniture Plus. All right, Derrick, we do have a call online already. So good morning to you, caller. How are you? Caller, good morning.
Yeah, hi, good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, I find it interesting because I know the extreme bringing, but Senator Story, remember you had a story that when you were bullied, you reported to the school and you had to fight. And at some point you had to express it by fighting back. I know the premeditated walking with a knife and something, but when the system fails you, what else do you do? And I could understand the frustration of a person being bullied into making wrong decisions when nobody around you takes you on seriously. And we have to confront the failure of the system to respond to children who react in violent, extreme ways. And I'm not condoning picking up a knife from your home and walking with it, but I do understand it going through a system from primary school. I had a fight, and I had a fight because nobody else taking you on, and bullies get away continuously in Trinidad and Tobago. People who do wrong to other people are always given, for some reason, the benefit of the doubt, whereas the people who are receiving the pain have to suffer with the pain until extreme. And that's how we live in straight through. The law-abiding person must be bullied by the people who break all the rules. And when we express ourselves, we are held accountable and not the bully. And I find that is because you had to fight, Paul. You had to fight in your school to express yourself. And she, extreme, had to walk with a knife. So let me talk about fixing the system that when a person reports to a principal and teachers and priests, that they respond. And how do we get and police? They're going to talk to the police and taking me on about some neighbor harassing me, and then when the person pelting stone on your roof and harassing you. We trivialize everything until extreme expressions happen. And here we are. All right. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Good morning, caller.
Hey, morning.
Yeah, Mr. Patrick, go ahead.
I listen to Mr. Pinal, and I want to understand something. Don't dismiss what Mr. Pinal said. Let me tell you something about me, personal. I grew up in a very close environment. I grew up in a sheltered environment. And I end up outside of the work job on the 4th, on the party bus shoot. I nearly become a criminal there in the quest to protect myself. You understand? I used to go to work with a cutlass in a hamsack because you're dealing with criminal and who you're talking to them is taking you on. The system could make you turn a criminal. But I learned something over the years. I went to the High Court.
Yeah, quickly, Mr. Patrick. I have a lot of calls coming through.
Yes, I went to the High Court at Ashura, and a judge make a statement and stick with me under no form of provocation. Take the law in your hands. So until that time, we had to get licked some people by. I go on.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
I listened to the lady that read the news, and she brought some context to the thing. In asking for context, she has really brought a spin to the conversation. Because, and I'm listening to Mr. Sharbodie, and the problem in Trinidad and Tobago is that a shooter could go into a church or a school or a shopping plaza in the United States, shoot up people, and then we could sit down in living rooms and get context to the whole story, the backstory, the what made him do it and everything. But a child could stab up a next child in a school right here in Trinidad, and we cannot have an official press release from the TTPS or from the Ministry of Education as to context and backstory. So we're not sure. It was only in listening to Mr. Sharbodie now, I'm assuming the information he's putting out is the accurate information and not speculation as well too. So we have an idea as who is the victim, who is the bully, and who is the instigator. We still haven't had those facts put to us, so we know how to accurately feel and who to accurately be upset with and to blame, right? And I'm blaming the information people, the police service, for not everything must be a secret in Trinidad and Tobago, right? And we need to do better with dissemination of information so we know how to accurately feel better, right? So thanks, Mr. Sharbodie. I hope the information you are putting out is the right one, that the person who did this stabbing was actually the bully, and she was defending herself. I'm hoping that what you are saying is the correct information. So we now know, okay, if she was defending herself, if has she made complaints to the school before? Was complaints made to the TTPS before about this bully in the school? Did the school complain to the TTPS about this child? Did the school tell the parents about this child or anything? So we need context before we formulate an opinion. Thank you very much.
All right. Officer Sharbodie, any words on...
Well, I think a lot of the issue that people are raising there, Officer Sharbodie, is the issue of conflict resolution. Because you have conflicts that are going to take place in all manner of environments. And of course, the school is kind of the first ground where that social interaction is taking place with young humans, where conflict is going to arise. And what is the infrastructure within the school system, which is largely state-controlled, in managing that conflict and getting to that conflict resolution? Because if it is not managed there, then it means you feed into the rest of society that we can't handle conflicts, which we are seeing in terms of gang turf. You're seeing in terms of all manner of incidents between neighbors and that the police service will call domestic matters, where conflict resolution is just it's just words to them. As far as they're concerned, they have to resort to violence. And if the state is serious in terms of molding the society in a particular direction, in that social contract that we all have with each other as we all live in this small space, then they have to pour the resources to make the systems more functional.
Well said, and it is absolutely imperative that you reinforce that the schools need to revisit and need to have on their syllabus anger management, conflict resolution, emotional intelligence. All that must be the sum total of a system that is placed within the school to ensure that our children understand how to show restraint, how to be a brother's keeper, how to be a peacemaker. If two parties are involved in arguing, what are the red lights to look for? Those are essential things must now be part of our school, knowing toxic environment or the children come from, and knowing that violence has been glamorized. And let me put for the record, I have never said that the child was bullied and victim. I was playing very safe saying that some children are victims and become perpetrators sometimes. And in my early interview, I mentioned let us wait and see, because all those things will be unearthed through the court system, because the court would request a file from the school. The court will also request some type of report from the home, and then you will have to get a good appreciation of what exactly went on before we pointing fingers. I mentioned that that's why I did not want to support the expulsion component, because you would be making a statement that the child, even though what the child did was wrong, we must not frown, we must frown on the choice that the child make, but not frown on our children. So we distance ourselves from the fact that she used a knife. But again, the school system need to look into where they falter, what areas that they need to beef up on, and that should never happen again. We must ensure that type of incident, that whether it's in the school or out the school.
Well, because there seems to be a conflicting narrative that you're not so sure what exactly the facts are. But if she's charged, obviously the police would have taken a certain direction in how they perceive the facts, because self-defense is a defense. It's something. So I am just obviously this is a conflict that has been ongoing in this particular circumstance. They didn't just suddenly meet on the road and suddenly this erupted. There is some backstory. There's some backstory that the school was trying to deal with. And my point is, obviously, this is not the first school fight. It came directly after the Ministry of Education trumpeted school fights are down to 0. And it's like the universe say, is it? Take a slap. And there we were. And even...
Richard, the other part of it too is that, and I think Officer Sharbodie mentioned it earlier on, is are we looking at this system? Because right now, there are scores of students being bullied. Yes. And scores of students being threatened. Right now.
Sure.
Who don't feel that they have any form of redress. They reported to teacher reported to dean reported to school supervisor, and the threatening and the bullying continues, and they get to the point of frustration. Sometimes they call the parents, sometimes parents brace parents outside the school, and that is not the way it should be. And the system for decades has not been able to provide an effective, efficient, sustainable method where teachers or school supervisors or social workers are being proactive in going in and say, what's going on here? And even if a child is acting out and threatening, that child is doing that because of something that's happening or not happening in the home.
That's right.
On the other side of it, because the child is not threatening or bullying just like that. There's something going on with that child also.
That's right.
That the system is not picking up and remediating. So, so in other words, these mechanisms are not working for either side.
And Brother Richard, just simple thing like, let's take sex education. We have been lecturing for decades about
Derrick. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. You see that word you just used there, sex, is the deepest, darkest, dirtiest word in the history of the world. So when you call it family life education.
Yes.
Don't say penis, don't say vagina.
No.
Otherwise, oh my God.
Yes, it's terrible.
And we're still there, believe it or not. Right? So don't teach a 6-year-old or 7-year-old age-appropriate information that can help them that can start to train them. Don't teach a 14-year-old age-appropriate material that can help them make better choices. No. That's a mommy and daddy, which I understand, part of the process, who sometimes don't even know how to teach the children about intimacy and physical intimacy and why you should wait and how to protect yourself and stuff like that. God forbid. No. Wait until they reach 18. They will only have sex when they reach 18.
Yes, and we have been tardy in terms of addressing those fundamental issues. That's why, teenage pregnancy is on the rise, and you have all kind of young people not
No, you have no teenage pregnancies because you're to have sex before 18, aren't you? Just get pregnant by immaculate conception. They just don't have sex.
It just always puzzles me that government after government always talks about family life being the bedrock of the society and blah, 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 blah.
Because the religious groups jump in.
And yet they don't pour the resources necessary to deal with dysfunction when it happens, to deal with those anger and conflict resolution issues, starting in the school system, because that's where it starts. That's where you see reflections of dysfunctional families. You see it there, and you see it in neighbor reactions. And communities know, by and large, where the troublesome families are in terms of the localized communities themselves. They kind of know.
Repeat that again.
Actually, that may be a misnomer because some families may seem very functional and very dysfunctional behind closed doors. So
but it will still come out. It will still come out in the school system, Paul.
It will come out in the school system, right? Because that is the most universal socialization we have. Because everybody have to go to school by law between, is it 5 and 14 or 15?
Mm-hmm.
So that is the mechanism through which you can pick up a lot of these things because you have to go to school by law.
And that's where you have to target your resources. We can't be sixth in crime on the planet per capita, and that's not something that bothers us and embarrasses us. Because it's like if you talk about the letter F, Officer Sharbodie, it's like the world saying F, Trinidad and Tobago.
That's right. That's right. And
that doesn't upset us.
Mm-hmm.
It upsets me. I always looking at those barometers and I always want Trinidad to be the best. I always want Trinidad to be the best in every positive barometer and last in every negative barometer. And we're number 6. Yes, whether we agree or not, that's what's outside in the world.
Mm-hmm. And even if we're not 6th and we're 9th, it's still bad. Even if we're not 6th and we're 15th.
Well, we know it's bad. We live here.
Yeah, but the response.
We know it's bad, Paul.
We haven't seen the methodology, so we have to question the number.
Yeah, but citizens across the country, what is the number one concern of Trinidad and Tobagonians? Crime.
Crime.
And TTPS, Officer Sharbodie gets a lot of flack for it. It gets flack from us sometimes on this morning show.
Yes.
When we're wondering, well, why wasn't X done? Like for example, that carjacking video that went out yesterday with this woman parking her car in whatever areas is close to Maraval.
Yeah.
I think that's really is that Basse or whatever they call it?
Maraval.
Yes.
But anyway, in that area, 6:30 in the morning, she gets things. You see the complicit vehicle turning back and forth, and I'm just asking this morning, didn't they enhance that video and try and get the license number for that vehicle? Can they enhance that video and see if they can figure out who this person is? I don't know. And there is no communication from the TTPS. We see and the TTPS is not rapid in its commentary when things like that come out on social media. So it becomes this unresolved issue in citizens' minds. And for citizens, they feel less safe because they feel that these perpetrators have not been caught and we don't know what's going on. Rather than an aggressive public relations response saying, we have located the license number of the vehicle, these people are going to be caught. All of that matters.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, I know that this cyber unit of the Trinidad Police Service will play an integral role in terms of enhancing the number and providing the necessary information based on technology, and then that will be passed on the licensing. And that's where the networking and the fast tracking and getting the level of efficiency, the expedite, some type of law enforcement. It is the agencies that are in charge that we need to make sure that they network and they're efficient and they're functional and that they respond in quick time, so that the people will feel a sense of, okay, the due justice has been done.
Exactly.
Yeah. I want to put for the record, gentlemen, that as one previous caller said, I grew up on Nelson Street. My parents died at the age of 14. I had to work plus go to school. I know about gangs. I know about Panther Gang. Growing up on Nelson Street, I had my share of poor choices, and people had given me chances. I know about, making doing things that your parents will frown on you. My mother was a single parent unit mother, sorry. It was a neighbor who took care of me until I reached the age of 14. 11, 14, my mother would have told me, this lady has been taking care of you. And we need to go back being our brother's keeper. We need to go back, you're seeing a mother with 8 children and trying to render support and assistance. That is missing. And that's why crime has blossomed and become ugly. And crime can only blossom and grow into communities that are fragmented. People are now living in cages, gate outside, gate on top, a lamb detector, 2 dogs in front. But guess what? These men are afraid camera and gate again. They come in for you without mask. Brazen. Sometimes these young men and them, they grew up in the community. Now they have become monsters in our own backyard. And if we do not go back to our community, being our brother's keeper, looking out for each other, where we said all the fundamentals that are missing, we need to go back there where it is absolutely imperative that when a neighbor comes, you share bread, you cut a bread in half, you teach your children about respect, good morning, good afternoon, excuse me, good day. Then we'll have nice buildings, nice infrastructure, and then what? The human development part will be of no use to us because we don't speak to each other. We don't talk. We don't know who is living next door to us anymore. It is not our business until crime raises ugly head. It's happening in our schools now because it's happening in our community. And the role models that our young people are looking at right now is our community leaders, gang leaders, if I have to put it raw. Young girls are now forming themselves into clip because the girls in them are realize it is absolutely imperative that it's all about trying to survive. It's like survival outside to the fittest. And we need to ensure that our schools, our home, our community are safe. I can go and play basketball and I'll be ducking from some bullet. I could be playing football on the field and I'll be worried that somebody coming with a gun. Bring back where the communities are safe and the space where we once called home. And, it's all part of reconstructing the community, the media. Everybody has a fundamental role in terms of creating and being the agent of change. The police service is just one, many stakeholders, and through others, we will be able. I went on some what you call programs away, international programs. And gentlemen, I've seen police officer, social worker, teacher, their officer, everybody in one room working in the interest of the school. Next thing, to spirituality. We need to bring back some level of spirituality to our children. And I know that God loves them. God cares for them. There's a purpose. God has a plan for their life. A child grew up and a child feel that there's no plan in their life. Well, guess what? Then they would, they'll resort to gum. They will resort to gangster because they feel that there's no value. Our young men are not loved. Nobody to embrace them. Those are the things that are missing. And that's why our young people are picking knife and picking because the system has failed them. And we should all feel part of that failure. Williamsville is just one of the many schools. And we hope that Williamsville will be used as a test case so that we don't happen to know other schools. I'm trusting that other schools are looking on and saying, hey, I don't want this happen to my school, and to put the necessary infrastructure in place. Parent teachers, sometimes you go to a parent meeting, 40 parents, and you're only speaking to those who, are supportive. The two parents who are supposed to be there are not even the PTA to hear and to listen and to be part and parcel. And your child is going to that school for 5 years. You're a plumber, you're a masonry. They will even come and fix a pipe. You only put $50 towards the school. But when the court have your son before the court, you have to come with $15,000. Isn't that amazing? That they don't want the school support the education system. but they had to fork out 15,000 because the child is now on a murder charge. Our party list is wrong. We need to get it right. And we need to support where the support is needed. Go to the youth clubs, go to the agencies. How can I help? I would like to render my service. Can I speak to the young people for 5 minutes? I would like to offer my services in plumbing. That's what makes a community grow. That's what makes a community develop. Media, children love music. They love this jockey. Get involved and impact on the children early before the elements impact on them.
Yeah. No, Paul, you're muted.
Thanks for being with us. We appreciate your time and your great work.
Yeah. Thank you, Officer Derrick Sharbodie. Appreciate it. Thank you for being on the Power Breakfast Show.
Thank you, gentlemen, and blessings to you and yours.
Recording stopped.
All right. Thank you. All the best. All right. As I said, that was Officer Derrick Sharbodie. All right. Taking a quick break. Be right back.
Calling all alumni of the former Mucurapa Junior Secondary